I call the member for Forrest.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. The ABC plays an important role in many of our regional and remote communities, particularly in thin regional communication markets and during emergencies. Many years ago, I was proud to be selected as an ABC Rural Woman of the Year. Well, I'm actually not proud of the ABC anymore, Deputy Speaker. I'm appalled and disgusted. The ABC has become openly green left, politically biased and too often totally inaccurate, representing by majority city-centric elite activists in its news and current affairs delivery. And it's no wonder, because the majority of the ABC staff are located in cities. The 2022-23-24 annual report shows that 4,520 staff are based in metro areas and only 594 are in regional and remote areas. Now, no wonder we've seen the direct attacks on rural and regional farmers. In the city-centric ABC, how it reported on the live cattle and live sheep issues, reported in such a way that the then Labor government firstly shut down the live cattle trade and has followed up with shutting down the live sheep trade. In each case, in the initial reporting, the ABC told only one side of the story. And what appalling attacks on our farmers and our regional communities as a result. I believe and hope that some of our regional ABC journalists actually understood the damage that's been done. I have watched the bias and politicisation of City ABC news and current affairs for years, and has progressively got worse. I will never forget some years ago when we were in government, when in 2016 I read a terribly inaccurate ABC story about the sexual assault of a child in Nauru that proved to be completely false. And the list goes on and on. I kept a file of those for so many years. But the final straw has come for me as a result of the ABC's sustained attacks on our Australian Defence Forces over the last few years, culminating in the deliberate and calculated falsifying of video footage, which was literally doctored footage inserted by the ABC into a story that was clearly designed to provide live evidence to validate the journalist's story. By adding the extra gunshots to this combat footage, the ABC was determined to provide evidence that members of the 2nd Australian Commando Regiment in a helicopter fired multiple shots at what the ABC claimed were unarmed Afghan civilians. There is no doubt the ABC has been determined to vilify the Australian Defence Force members for years, desperately trying to prove they were guilty of war crimes. In spite of the weasel words we heard at Senate estimates and a pathetic and carefully orchestrated internal review that in no way passes the pub test of any fair-minded Australian, there is no doubt in anyone's mind that the ABC journalist and his team did indeed deliberately doctor, falsify, manipulate and distort information, material and evidence in order to mislead audiences, which was designed to substantiate that journalist storyline, that the ADF was guilty of and had committed a war crime. And yes, ABC, in quoting your own carefully selected internal reviewer, Mr Sunderland's own words, if the gunshots had been added with the deliberate purpose of misleading the audience, it would have amounted to one of the most egregious and serious breaches imaginable of fundamental journalist ethics. But this is exactly what the ABC did. It was, in fact, one of the most egregious and serious breaches imaginable of fundamental journalist ethics. Otherwise, the shots would not have been heard in the audio at all, and if it had been an error, the ABC would have corrected that fact immediately. The ABC cannot deny this. The evidence is clear. Further proof beyond doubt that the ABC has not and will not meet its charter obligations. Charter obligations which state the ABC has to provide comprehensive broadcasting services of a high standard, and the duties of the board includes to ensure that the gathering and presentation by the Corporation of News and Information is accurate and impartial according to the recognised standards of objective journalism. Well, it's obvious that the ABC is neither accurate and definitely not impartial. I am sickened by the fact that the ABC board and employees will all be probably smiling at how well they delivered this story that they wanted the public to believe. And in spite of how deliberately egregious and wrong that story was, no one has been held or will be held responsible or accountable. The board and the management and staff will carry on business as usual and nothing will change at the ABC. I mean, this is just further evidence of the Green left ABC and that it is a law unto itself. But what is even worse, according to the 2024 ABC annual report, Australian taxpayers are paying a record amount of over $1.1 billion for this. And I understand the ABC is asking for even more taxpayers' dollars, at a time when I've read that its audience numbers are dwindling by 670,000 a week. No wonders the audience numbers are falling with stories like this. You know, this is a bit like shooting fish in a barrel when you attack our Defence Force members. And the ABC is determined not to represent broad Australian interests or views. There is a very clear lack of impartiality and balance, and there appears to be a consistent narrative for the Green left ABC to criticise defence. Editorial standards at the ABC require accuracy, impartiality, excellence and independence. The ABC has failed this test, as we've seen with this story, not only in the audio editing I've talked about already, but I've seen it recently in the defence industry coverage, recent defence industry coverage, where the reporting showed a clear lack of balanced sources of information by those clearly with known agendas who are keen to disrupt defence, or to actually demonstrate any of the, not to demonstrate any of the great achievements of the ADF, the other side of that story. Information the Australian people have a right to and deserve to know from a media organisation they pay for. Coverage which would give our serving ADF members pride in their achievements and would actually help the ABC meet its editorial standard of broadcasting programs that contribute to a sense of national identity. The lack of balance was clear in the ABC's Land Forces Expo protest coverage. ABC News coverage was reported as people injured in the Land Forces Expo's protest this week are assessing their legal options, lawyer says. Well, there was little or no criticism of the violent protesters, and where was the reporting on the attendees who were either attacked or had to seek alternate routes? Why was there no reporting of the fact that the ADF personnel were advised to not attend the workplace on St Kilda Road for fear of attack? Why was there no reporting that ADF personnel were strongly advised not to wear their uniforms to work in that area for fear of attack? Little reporting of the fact that ADF personnel were harassed at hotels. The ABC article actually sought greater legal defence mechanisms, promoting greater protection for the protesters who are violent. One side of that story only. I am sick of these attacks on defence. This lack of balanced reporting in the ABC's ongoing sustained attack on our ADF has to have a really dramatic and dreadful impact at a time when retention is a problem, recruitment is a problem, and the finding of the Royal Commission into veteran suicide. The ABC editorial standard states that it should be broadcasting programs, as I said, that contribute to a sense of national identity. How is tearing at our ADF adding to our sense of national identity? It actually undermines Australia's values, freedoms and democracy. So that's in spite of our young people who are in significant and impressive numbers participating at events such as Anzac Day. It's no wonder the ABC is losing its audiences, because it is not providing those comprehensive broadcasting standards and services of a very high standard. And in presenting the editorial by the board and the duties of the board to ensure that the gathering and presentation by the corporation of news and information accurate, impartial, according to the recognised standards of objective journalism. Now, I can't believe that this is what we're getting from what is supposed to be our national ABC. As someone who lives and works in regional Australia, for so long we relied on the ABC to be exactly that, and to provide those of us in the regions not only with accurate reporting but with timely responses that we need whenever there is an emergency. I am so saddened at what the ABC has become. The question